The crystalline halls of New Arcturus Military Tribunal echo with the sounds of chains as two blind Arcturian boys are led before High Commander Vex. Sergeant Caleb Hicks grips the railing of his observation post until his knuckles whiten, watching the proceedings with growing horror. Despite their disability, the young brothers move with an almost supernatural grace, their feet finding purchase on the polished floor through some sixth sense of spatial awareness. Ren, 12, and Kai, 14, stand straight back before the towering figure of the High Commander. Their mother Paya, an Arcturian medical researcher, struggles against her restraints as guards force her to her knees. The tribunal chamber rises in stark geometric patterns of crystal and steel, its cold architecture reflecting the ruthless efficiency of Arcturian justice. The evidence is irrefutable. High Commander Vex's voice resonates through the chamber. Citizens Ren and Kai possess genetic imperfections rendering them blind. Their continued existence violates our laws of genetic purity. Furthermore, their mother Paya has committed treason through illegal genetic research in an attempt to circumvent natural selection. Hicks notes the subtle glint of cybernetic components beneath the boys' clothing, testament to their mother's desperate attempts to engineer a solution to their blindness. His enhanced combat optics pick up sophisticated electronics, far more advanced than standard medical implants. The boys' movements, too fluid for truly blind children, suggest Paya's modifications have granted them alternative ways of sensing their environment. By the authority of the Arcturian High Command, I hereby sentence Ren and Kai to immediate termination at dawn tomorrow. Citizen Paya is sentenced to life imprisonment for violations of eugenic purity laws and conducting unauthorized genetic research. Hicks' jaw clenches as he processes the implications. The Purification Center, where the execution will take place, sits at the heart of the capital city. His position as Earth's military advisor grants him intimate knowledge of the facility's security systems, including the new vehicles and weapons his team recently supplied to the local garrison. The guards are still learning to operate the Earth-made equipment, their training far from complete. The Alliance protocols strictly forbid interference in Arcturian internal affairs. Intervention would trigger a diplomatic crisis between Earth and their first interstellar allies. But as Hicks watches the guards lead away two children whose only crime is being born different, his special forces training kicks into overdrive, mapping escape routes and cataloging security vulnerabilities. Dawn is less than 12 hours away. In the shadows of his observation post, Sergeant Caleb Hicks begins to plan a rescue that will either save two innocent lives or shatter humanity's first interstellar alliance. The crystals of New Arcturus shimmer with artificial light as night approaches, counting down the hours until the scheduled execution at the Purification Center. The crystalline spires cast long shadows across Hicks' path as he strode through the diplomatic quarter, his measured steps masking the calculations running through his mind. Inside his quarters, he pressed his palm against a hidden biometric scanner, revealing a concealed compartment behind his standard-issue storage unit. The matte black surface of his tactical stealth suit absorbed the room's ambient light. A gentle knock interrupted his equipment check. Dr. Marcus Roberts stood in the doorway, his medical insignia catching the light. "I know what you're planning," Roberts said, stepping inside and securing the door, "and I have information you need." Hicks paused, one hand still resting on his stealth suit. "I'm not planning anything, Doctor. I've been working with Paya for 11 months. Roberts activated a data tablet displaying complex neural interface schematics. Those boys' implants aren't just medical devices, they're revolutionary technology. The echolocation system requires specialized maintenance and power cells." Hicks studied the technical readouts. "The implants explain their movement patterns. I noticed it during the tribunal. Without proper support, they'll be truly blind." Roberts placed a small case on Hicks' desk. 3 months' worth of power cells. It's all I could secure without raising suspicion. Accessing the garrison security network through his encrypted terminal, Hicks pulled up the duty roster. Names of familiar faces appeared, guards he'd trained himself on Earth-supplied equipment. His eyes locked onto the activation sequences for the new perimeter defense system. Most of them still struggle with the startup protocols, he muttered, marking potential entry points. Roberts leaned forward. I can help. Create a diversion at the main barracks. A priority alert flashed across the screen. Hicks' fingers flew across the interface, decoding the transmission. His expression hardened. Execution's been moved to midnight. Vex is deploying his Crystal Blade Squadron. 4 hours, Roberts breathed. Let me help. One medical emergency report and I can draw away. No. Hicks sealed his stealth suit, checking the electromagnetic pulse devices secured to his belt. You've risked enough. If this goes wrong, Earth's going to need deniability. The doctor's shoulders tensed. They're children, Sergeant, which is why I'm going alone. Hicks activated his suit systems, checking the camouflage field's response. If I'm not back by dawn, destroy any evidence of Paya's research. They'll look for connections. The setting sun painted New Arcturus in shades of amber as Hicks moved through the shadows toward the purification center. His stealth field bent light around him, rendering him invisible to standard security sensors. The facility's geometric architecture rose before him, its crystalline surfaces reflecting the last rays of daylight. Guard patrols moved with practiced precision, but their weapons handling betrayed their inexperience with Earth technology. Through his tactical display, Hicks identified the power distribution hub, his first target. Crystal Blade soldiers stood at attention near the main entrance, their armor marked with Vex's personal insignia. Time compressed around him as he approached the facility's outer perimeter. The first EMP device felt cold against his palm as he prepared to breach the security cordon. Above him, New Arcturus 3 moons began their nightly ascent, counting down the hours until midnight. Somewhere inside, 2 blind boys waited in darkness, unaware that their execution timeline had changed, or that a lone human operative was about to challenge the full might of Arcturian justice. The maintenance tunnel's access panel yielded silently to Hicks' touch. He slipped inside, his active camouflage dispersing light around him as he navigated the narrow passage. The tunnel air carried the metallic tang of processed waste, masking his scent from Arcturian biosensors. His tactical display highlighted the power distribution hub ahead, but something was wrong. New security scanners lined the walls, their crystalline sensors pulsing with biometric recognition patterns. The specs Dr. Roberts provided hadn't included these upgrades. Adapting parameters, Hicks subvocalized into his comm unit. He extracted a crystalline power cell from his suit's auxiliary system. The cell's surface caught the dim light as he calibrated its frequency to match the scanner array. A soft whine filled the air as he activated the cell, creating a cascade of electromagnetic interference. The scanner's lights flickered and died. His suit's power indicator dropped to 30 minutes, a necessary sacrifice. 2 levels above, boots clicked against crystal floors as High Commander Vex strode into the facility's control center. Separate the prisoners, Vex ordered. Move the elder boy to primary chamber, the younger to secondary containment. Hicks froze, watching the feed from his tactical display as guards dragged Kai and Ren in opposite directions. The brothers' neural implants glinted beneath their clothing, their movements already showing signs of degradation. A priority alert flashed across his HUD. Dr. Roberts had initiated the medical emergency. Through the security feed, Hicks watched Colonel Zarks dispatch only a token force to investigate. The majority of the Crystal Blade Squadron remained in position, their armor casting prismatic reflections across the facility's walls. But the diversion hadn't been entirely futile. Lieutenant Kira, her silver rank insignia marking her as a medical corps officer, studied the emergency notification with narrowed eyes. She accessed a security terminal, her fingers moving across the crystal interface with practiced efficiency. Hicks pushed those observations aside, focusing on his immediate objective. The detention block lay ahead, steam hissing from ruptured atmospheric processors as his overload cascade took effect. 4 crystal blade soldiers guarding Paya's cell stumbled in the artificial fog. Hicks moved among them like a ghost, striking pressure points with practiced precision. The guards crumpled without a sound. "They're dying," Paya whispered as he released her restraints. Her fingers trembled as she gestured to a neural diagnostic display. The implant's power failure in 53 minutes. Without emergency recharge, the neural interface will collapse. "The maintenance tunnels?" Hicks asked, supporting her weight as she stood. "Sealed, structural damage." She pointed to a maintenance schematic. "But they're our only option for reaching both chambers in time." Warning indicators flashed across his tactical display. Colonel Zarks's voice echoed through the facility. "Initiating sequential lockdown. Secure all sections." Heavy blast doors began closing throughout the complex, each sealing with crystalline finality. Through the security feed, Hicks spotted Lieutenant Kira redirecting patrols away from the eastern quadrant, creating a narrow corridor of opportunity. But her actions drew attention. High Commander Vex himself turned toward her position, eyes narrowing with suspicion. Hicks checked his remaining assets: 2 EMP devices, 13 minutes of camouflage power, and his sidearm. The sealed maintenance tunnel stretched before them, support struts groaning under structural stress. Time contracted around him as he calculated possibilities, watching the power indicators on both boys' implants tick steadily downward. "The tunnel will collapse if we use it," Paya warned, her scientific training evident in her analysis. "But the boys' implants will fail if we don't reach them both in the next 4 to 7 minutes. Above them, crystal and steel groaned as another security barrier sealed. The window for rescue narrowed with each passing second. Hicks activated his tactical overlay, mapping the fastest route through the deteriorating maintenance shaft as High Commander Vex's voice echoed through the facility. "Attention all units. We have confirmation of internal assistance to the prisoners. Identify and detain any suspicious personnel immediately." Lieutenant Kira's movements became more urgent as she accessed another security terminal, creating a cascade of minor system failures that pulled guard patrols away from critical junctions. But her time was running out. Crystal Blade officers had begun reviewing security logs, tracing the source of the suspicious activity. Hicks guided Paya toward the maintenance tunnel entrance, his suit power indicator showing 11 minutes remaining. The passage ahead disappeared into darkness, broken only by the occasional spark of damaged power conduits. They would have one chance to reach both chambers before the implants failed, assuming the tunnel didn't collapse around them first. Hicks pulled a handheld scanner from his tactical vest, sweeping it across the tunnel walls. The device's display revealed a web of structural weaknesses spreading through the maintenance shaft. Beside him, Paya studied the readout with practiced efficiency. "The crystal growth is accelerating," she whispered, pointing to a cluster of crystalline formations protruding through a nearby wall panel. "These weren't here last week." They pressed forward, ducking under hanging power conduits. The scanner chirped a warning as they approached a junction, detecting increased stress patterns in the tunnel's support structure. A deep groan echoed through the passage, followed by the sharp crack of buckling metal. "Back!" Hicks grabbed Paya's arm, pulling her away as the ceiling collapsed. Chunks of crystal-infused debris crashed down, filling the tunnel with crystalline dust. When it settled, their primary route had vanished behind a wall of twisted metal and growing crystal formations. "The processing level," Paya said, gesturing to a maintenance hatch. "It's been abandoned since the waste management upgrade." Above them, Lieutenant Kira's fingers danced across her terminal. Climate control alerts cascaded through the facility's systems: atmospheric pressure fluctuations in Block C, temperature spikes in the eastern quadrant, ventilation malfunctions spreading floor by floor. Guard squads diverted to contain each disruption, creating gaps in the security grid. Colonel Zarks watched the systematic failures with narrowing eyes. "Lieutenant Commander Voss," he called, "investigate the source of these malfunctions." Voss approached Kira's station, his crystalline rank insignia catching the light. She maintained her focus on the terminal, masking her tension as he leaned over her shoulder. In the processing level, Hicks checked his tactical display. "The implant's power curves are degrading faster than projected. We need to split up here." He unslung his backup tactical harness, helping Paya secure it. "Main execution chamber is through the North Passage. Secondary holding is east." "I've never—" Paya's hands trembled as she checked the harness seals. "Wait 30 seconds after each patrol passes. Stay in the shadows. If you're spotted, trigger the emergency beacon." Hicks demonstrated the activation sequence. "I'll find you." They parted at the junction, each racing against the implant's failing power reserves. Paya navigated through maintenance corridors toward the main chamber, counting seconds between crystal blade patrols. The scientific knowledge that had marked her for persecution now guided her hands as she bypassed security panels, rewriting access codes with precise keystrokes. Hicks encountered the first Crystal Blade squad outside secondary holding. His stealth field flickered 7 minutes of power remaining. The soldiers moved with mechanical precision, their weapons charged. Colonel Zark stood at the security station, personally monitoring Wren's containment. A facility-wide alert cut through the air. High Commander Vex's voice echoed through every speaker. "Initialize full spectrum scan. Locate all unauthorized electronic signatures." At her terminal, Kira's breath caught. Her fingers moved instantly, coding an emergency maintenance override. Lieutenant Commander Voss tracked the command to her station. Their eyes met. Instead of raising an alarm, he leaned close. "My sister had implants," he whispered, "before the purification laws." His hands moved to a secondary terminal, accessing the scan protocols. "I'll filter the results. Buy you time." Paya reached Kai first, her medical training guiding her through the execution chamber's lock mechanisms. The boy lay still, neural implants pulsing weakly. She withdrew the power cells, then froze the chamber's isolated power systems, used non-standard connections. Her fingers moved to her own medical scanner, stripping components to create an adapter. The secondary facility's lights died as Hicks's final EMP detonated. Crystal Blade soldiers stumbled in the darkness, falling to precise strikes. Colonel Zarks's voice cut through the chaos. "Backup power, now." Emergency systems hummed to life, revealing Hicks's position. Guards opened fire as he dove for cover. Through his tactical display, he watched automated security protocols activate. Crystalline barriers began growing across doorways and corridors, their sharp edges gleaming in the emergency lights. The maintenance tunnel access point was nearly sealed, crystal formations spreading across its surface. Hicks spotted a waste management warning sign, indicating access to the underground reclamation system. Behind those doors lay the crystal caverns and perhaps their only remaining escape route. His comm unit crackled. "Hicks," Voss's voice came through, tense but controlled. "Vex is moving toward Kira's position. The barriers will seal completely in minutes. There's another way through the caverns. Look for research station markers." The growing crystals cast prismatic patterns across the corridors as Hicks moved toward Wren's position. Each step brought them closer to either escape or entrapment, while deep beneath the facility, ancient secrets waited in darkness. Hicks activated his tactical overlay, mapping the quickest route through the reclamation system. Ancient research station markers glowed faintly on his display, their positions matching the crystalline formations spreading across the walls. "Status update," he subvocalized to Paya. Kai stabilized, but we've got problems. Her voice came through scratchy with interference. The execution chamber's power grid connects to something below us, some kind of laboratory network. A crystal formation erupted beside him, forcing Hicks to dodge. Colonel Zarks emerged from the emergency lighting, crystalline armor catching the dim glow. Hicks dropped into a defensive stance as Zarks charged. The colonel's augmented strength shattered the wall where Hicks had stood moments before. But Earth combat training had prepared Hicks for opponents who relied too heavily on enhanced capabilities. He used Zarks's momentum against him, redirecting the charge into a support beam. Crystalline armor cracked under the impact. Zarks stumbled, off balance. Hicks struck precise points where the crystal armor segments connected, exploiting weaknesses in the supposedly impenetrable protection. The colonel collapsed, systems shorting out. Ren's containment cell lay ahead. The boy's neural implant pulsed erratically as Hicks released his restraints. "Can you sense anything unusual?" Hicks asked, supporting Ren's weight. Ren tilted his head, eyes unfocused. "The crystals, they're singing." His implant flared brighter. "There's something in the walls, old tech, lots of it." Above them, Kira's voice cut through the calm static. "Commander Vex incoming. He knows about the disabled Arcturians." Vex's voice interrupted. "About how their adaptations prove we're capable of evolution beyond crystalline forms." Heavy boots clicked against the floor as he approached Kira's station. "Did you think I wouldn't notice your interference, Lieutenant?" "Sir, I can explain," Kira began. "No need." Vex's tone carried unexpected weight. "You've discovered why these children must be eliminated. Their abilities threaten everything we've built. The Empire cannot accept proof that our ancestors embraced biological diversity." Crystal formations accelerated their growth, merging with the faltering neural implants. Ren gasped, his echolocation abilities suddenly amplifying. "Hicks, the walls, they're full of tech, ancient tech." The tactical display flickered as power fluctuations cascaded through the facility. Dr. Roberts' voice broke through, massive energy signatures activating. "The crystal growth is interfacing with some kind of hidden network." Hicks guided Ren toward the maintenance shaft entrance. The boys' enhanced senses led them through twisting passages, avoiding the worst of the crystal spread. They found Paya and Kai in a vast chamber filled with ancient equipment. "The implants are failing faster than expected," Paya reported, examining a bank of pristine interfaces. "But these are different. They're designed to work with natural adaptations, not suppress them." Vex's voice echoed through the facility, initiating crystal purge. Containment Protocol 7. Crystalline structures erupted from every surface, growing at geometric rates. Kira and Voss sprinted into the chamber, sealing the heavy doors behind them. "We found this," Kira said, holding up a data core. "Everything about the Empire's genetic manipulation, the real history." The crystal purge reached the laboratory level, formations spreading across the entrance. Paya studied the ancient interface system, her fingers moving across controls with increasing urgency. "We can save them," she said, "but we'll have to remove their current implants. The procedure." She hesitated. "It's untested. These systems are advanced, but there's no guarantee." Crystal structures encased their exit points one by one. The boys' implants sparked, failing under the electromagnetic interference. Hicks checked his tactical display. Their window for escape narrowed with each passing second. The ancient laboratory held the key to both the boys' survival and the truth about Arcturian society. But attempting the procedure with untested technology could kill them both. Outside, the crystal purge continued its relentless advance. Hicks studied the growing formations, calculating trajectories and timing. They had minutes at most before every path was sealed. The choice between certain death and desperate chance crystallized before him as clearly as the structures threatening to entomb them all. "We do both," Hicks announced, his tactical training crystallizing into decisive action. Paya, Prep the ancient interface. Voss, help me secure the perimeter. Paya moved to the ancient consoles, her medical scanner revealing compatibility patterns between the boy's failing implants and the preserved technology. These systems, they're designed to enhance natural abilities, not suppress them. Kira's fingers flew across her terminal, downloading the historical database. Text scrolled across her screen, revealing medical records that made her pause. Commander, Vex's genetic profile. He carries the same variations he condemns. The crystal formations accelerated, geometric patterns spreading across the laboratory walls at triple their previous speed. Hicks positioned his remaining tactical gear at key defensive points, noting how the crystalline growth created natural choke points. Incoming. Ren called out, his enhanced senses detecting movement through the crystalline corridors. 3 squads moving in formation. Kai tilted his head, interfacing with the ancient systems. The crystals, they're part of something bigger, a network. Dr. Roberts' voice cut through their comms. The old power grid is still active. If we route auxiliary power through the boy's neural patterns, it could stabilize them long enough for the transfer. Paya initiated the connection sequence. Ancient displays illuminated, responding to the boy's neural signatures. 20 minutes until full interface degradation. Weapons fire erupted outside the laboratory. Colonel Zarx's voice carried through the crystal formations. Breach teams advance. Hicks activated his last EMP device, timing the pulse to coincide with the Crystal Blade soldiers' approach. Their armor systems flickered, creating openings for precise shots at connection points between crystal plates. New formation at 2 o'clock, Kai called out. The crystal growth emerged exactly where he predicted, forming a barrier that trapped half the assault team. Voss studied markings on the laboratory walls, recognition dawning. These symbols, they're from the Forbidden Archives. Our ancestors, they adapted for space exploration. Different environments, different evolutionary paths. The transfer procedure began. Paya monitored neural patterns as ancient interfaces synchronized with the boy's genetic structures. Their echolocation abilities expanded exponentially, revealing layers of hidden technology throughout the cavern system. The facility shuddered. Crystal formations erupted from every surface as Vex triggered an artificial earthquake. Warning indicators flashed across Kira's screen. 15 minutes until total systemic collapse, Dr. Roberts warned. The crystal growth is destabilizing the entire complex. Colonel Zarx breached the inner laboratory, blood seeping from a crack in his armor. He raised his weapon, then froze as he witnessed Ren and Kai interfacing with the ancient systems. The boy's neural patterns displayed on surrounding screens, showing specialized adaptations actively enhancing the technology's capabilities. The evacuation pods. Kai's voice carried new harmonics as he connected deeper with the ancient interface. They're tuned to our frequency. Kira's hands stilled on her terminal. The data transfer. Someone needs to maintain the connection until completion. She met Hicks' eyes. I'll stay. 6 pods, Voss counted, checking the launch system. 7 of us. The crystal earthquake intensified. Support beams groaned under growing pressure. Colonel Zarx lowered his weapon, staring at readouts showing the boy's enhanced capabilities. Everything we were taught, he whispered, was a lie, Voss finished. The question is, what will you do with the truth? Ancient systems hummed to life as the neural transfer reached its final stage. The boy's enhanced senses expanded through the crystal matrix, revealing escape routes and structural weaknesses. Above them, High Commander Vex's voice echoed through failing facility speakers, ordering a final purge of all systems. The laboratory's crystal formations pulsed with transferred energy as Paya completed the procedure. Time seemed to crystallize around them as each person faced the immediate choice who would survive to reveal the truth and who would remain behind in the collapsing facility. A thunderous crack echoed through the laboratory as crystalline formations split the ceiling. Paya's hands flew across the ancient interface, completing the neural transfer sequence. Both boys gasped as their new connections activated, their awareness expanding through the crystal matrix surrounding them. The crystal network, Ren breathed, his eyes widening. I can see everything, every corridor, every chamber. Kai's fingers traced patterns in the air. There's a frequency. We can stop the growth, here. He transmitted a sequence of pulses through his enhanced interface, creating a clear zone around the group as crystal structures retreated from the dimensional harmonics. Kira, Hicks called as she stepped away from the group, moving toward the control center. The data has to reach the surface. She activated her tactical display, encryption protocols streaming across the screen. Someone needs to ensure the transmission completes. I'm staying too, Voss announced, checking his weapon. We'll hold this position. Colonel Zarks accessed a command terminal, his crystalline armor reflecting the emergency lights. Authorization code Zarks 793. All Crystal Blade units stand down immediately. He turned to Hicks. Not all will obey. Vex's loyal forces are still active in sectors 2 and 4. The facility shuddered violently. Dr. Roberts' voice cut through their comms. Massive power spike detected. Vex is triggering a crystal cascade. It's transforming everything it touches into pure crystal formations. The outer sectors are already crystallizing, Kai reported, his enhanced senses tracking the transformation spread. Vex's forces, their armor is accelerating the effect. They're being consumed first. Paya directed teams to the evacuation pods as Ren and Kai coordinated safe passages through their expanded awareness of the crystal matrix. The ancient vessels hummed to life, responding to the boys' enhanced neural patterns. 6 pods, Hicks calculated, dividing the group. Teams of 3. Ren, you're with me. Kai, stay with Paya. We'll split up to maximize survival chances. Another explosion rocked the facility. Through the crystal network, Ren detected new formations emerging. The cascade is creating tunnels to the surface, but they're collapsing almost immediately. Commander, Dr. Roberts transmitted, the cascade is approaching the ancient power core. If it reaches the core's containment chamber. His voice carried dire urgency. The resulting explosion will vaporize everything within 10 kilometers. Colonel Zarks activated his tactical overlay. I'm taking a team to confront Vex. His override codes might be our only chance to stop the cascade. The crystal transformation accelerated, geometric patterns consuming corridors and chambers in seconds. Through their enhanced interfaces, Ren and Kai discovered they could temporarily reverse the effect in small areas, creating safe zones for movement. Pods 1 through 3, launch sequence initiated, Paya announced, coordinating with the boys' enhanced navigation. Kai's tracking stable routes through the crystal matrix. Hicks studied the tactical display as Ren identified a potential rescue path to the control center. Kira, Voss, we're coming back for you. The boys can clear a route, but we'll have minutes at most. Weapons fire erupted from multiple directions as Vex's loyal forces made their final push. Crystal formations consumed 2 soldiers mid-stride, their armor accelerating the transformation. The remaining troops fell back, firing desperately at the advancing crystalline wall. Cascade has reached Section 12, Dr. Roberts reported. Core containment breach in 15 minutes. The first pods launched, Kai guiding them through rapidly shifting crystal tunnels while Ren mapped emergency routes for the rescue operation. Colonel Zarks' team engaged Vex's forces near the main control hub, the battle turning the corridor into a maze of fractured crystal and weapons fire. Through the facility's failing systems, Vex's voice carried a tone of fanatical certainty. Better obliteration than the truth. Our purity must be preserved. The crystal cascade consumed everything in its path, transforming organic and inorganic matter alike into complex geometric structures. As Hicks prepared the rescue operation, Ren's enhanced senses detected a new pattern forming in the crystal matrix, one that could change everything. "Pattern matching complete," Ren announced, his eyes tracking invisible geometries through the crystal matrix. "Kai, sync with my frequency." The boys' neural patterns aligned through their enhanced interfaces, creating harmonics that rippled through the crystalline structures. Where their combined frequencies intersected, the crystal cascade retreated, leaving clear passages in its wake. "There," Kai transmitted through their shared interface, "a stable resonance." Hicks watched translucent tunnels form through the advancing crystal wall. "Extraction team, move now." Ren maintained that opening. Kai scanned for structural weaknesses. They advanced through the crystallizing facility in precise formation. Paya monitored neural readouts on her portable medical display as the boys alternated power loads, their enhanced abilities straining against the cascade's relentless advance. "Neural pressure mounting," she warned. "They can't maintain this indefinitely." Weapons fire echoed through crystalline corridors. High Commander Vex emerged from a junction, his armor partially transformed into jagged crystal formations. Two loyal guards flanked him, their weapons tracking the rescue team. "You preserve nothing but weakness," Vex snarled, raising his rifle. Colonel Zarks intercepted them, his tactical system still functional despite spreading crystallization across his armor. "Stand down, Vex, it's finished." Their combat erupted in close quarters, crystal shards spraying as their armor connected. Vex's movements grew increasingly erratic as the transformation spread across his systems. He reached for his command gauntlet, fingers extending toward the core detonation controls. Zark struck precisely, his armor-enhanced blow shattering Vex's crystallized gauntlet. Not this time. Kira and Voss held their position in the control center, surrounded by advancing crystal formations. The data transfer completed as Hicks' team reached them. "Lieutenant Commander," Hicks called, nodding the crystallization spreading across Voss's left arm. "Time to move." Voss helped Kira toward the evacuation pod, his movements precise despite his injuries. Through their enhanced awareness, Ren and Kai created a network of safe passages, guiding each pod through the rapidly transforming facility. "Core containment at critical levels," Dr. Roberts transmitted. 4 minutes until detonation." The pods launched in sequence, following paths cleared by the boys' resonance frequency. Crystal spires shattered and reformed around them as they ascended. Colonel Zark secured their rear position, his partially crystallized form taking up a defensive stance. "The surface teams are in position," Dr. Roberts guided them. "Emergence points identified." Ren and Kai's shared neural interface illuminated escape vectors through the crystal matrix. Each pod navigated the shifting geometries with increasing precision as the boys learned to anticipate and counter the cascade's patterns. The facility's power core reached critical mass as the final pod cleared the surface. Crystal spires erupted skyward, channeling the detonation's energy through geometric patterns that contained its destructive force underground. Dr. Roberts' medical team deployed immediately as the pods landed, administering emergency treatment to the rescued Arcturians. Paya's instruments showed the boys' neural patterns stabilizing, their enhanced interfaces permanently integrated with their genetic structures. "Remarkable adaptation," she noted, studying their readings. The ancient systems didn't just replace their implants, they evolved them. The historical data transmitted by Kira began spreading through Arcturian networks, fragments of truth breaking through generations of genetic propaganda. Crystal formations towered above them, marking the facility's location with gleaming spires, a monument to change forged in the crucible of crisis. Surface teams established a secure perimeter as additional medical units arrived. The survivors regrouped at the human compound's medical center, where Dr. Roberts coordinated treatment protocols for those affected by crystallization exposure. Ren and Kai's enhanced senses mapped new patterns through their surroundings, their abilities expanding beyond the original parameters of their genetic variations. They detected harmonics in common technologies that had always existed beyond normal perception. The interface is still evolving, Kai observed, sharing his awareness with Ren through their neural link. There's more to discover. Lieutenant Kira began organizing the recovered historical data, preparing evidence for transmission to the High Council. Lieutenant Commander Voss, despite crystal scarring across his armor and skin, assisted in correlating ancient records with modern Arcturian databases. The crystal spires caught early morning light, refracting it in patterns that matched the boys' enhanced frequencies. Their presence marked the beginning of a new chapter in Arcturian history, written in the language of adaptation rather than purity. Sergeant Hicks reviewed tactical data from the rescue operation, identifying patterns in the boys' frequency manipulation that could be applied to future recovery missions. The facility's sealed remains held more secrets, waiting to be uncovered by those who understood that strength lay in diversity rather than conformity.